very good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV One for the Newsfirst, where the people come first. I'm Artik Satyanesan.
And I'm Hirani Karunaratna. Here are tonight's top stories. Australian Governor-General visits Stein Studios during landmark state visit to Sri Lanka. Positive news for Australian investors. No trade discussions with India until tariff tensions are resolved, President Trump says. India pauses arms purchases from the United States. Discussion held with Prime Minister on religious education issues. Cardinal briefed on education reforms. Investigation launched into Borella shooting. Fire in Ratanagola Reserve in Balangoda. Army and Air Force support to contain blaze. Final Randoli Perhara parades the streets today. Religious activities held island-wide for Nikini Full Moon Poya Day. Sirasa Namami Poya Day program held in Degal Dorua.
On to those stories in detail. The Capital Maharaja Group hosted Her Excellency the Honourable Miss Sam Mostinacy, Governor-General and Head of State of the Commonwealth of Australia, during a 5-day visit to Sri Lanka at Stein Studios in Ratmalana.
The Governor-General of Australia holds the highest constitutional office in the country. The current holder of this office, Her Excellency the Honourable Miss Sam Mostinacy AC, arrived in Sri Lanka the day before yesterday. As part of her visit, the Governor-General visited Stein Studios in Ratmalana, where she participated in a special interview. Her Excellency Sam Mostinacy was warmly welcomed at the entrance of Stein Studios on behalf of the Capital Maharaja Group by CMG Group Director Sivan Daniel.
It's wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity
Notably, this marks the first ever visit to Sri Lanka by a serving Governor-General of Australia. The Governor-General also holds the position of Commander-in-Chief of the Australian Defence Forces. Her Excellency Ms. Sam Mostinacy took part in an exclusive interview with Sivan Daniel, Group Director of the Capital Maharaja Group. The discussion focused on the theme Leadership in a Modern and Multicultural Democracy.
Taking Australia as a whole, how would you like to encourage Australians to look at Sri Lanka right now? And if someone's looking at Sri Lanka with questions, with concerns, with doubts, is there anything you can speak to them about the potential that this country holds and the journey and the wish towards that modern Sri Lanka?
Well, I guess the one thing I didn't talk about, which is important to your economy, is tourism.
Yes.
So the first thing I'd say is come here, travel to Sri Lanka.
Yes.
As active tourists. Come and see for yourself modern Sri Lanka. See the world that you are traversing from your history through to your modernity. You have a contested history, as does Australia.
Yeah.
We all great nations have to wrestle with things that have happened in our history, and particularly for younger Australians to come and learn about your history. You're in the business, I understand at the moment, of something you call reconciliation. We have a different version of that in our country, with discussions about the First Nations history of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders in Australia. But we are both as nations thinking about what the elements that make us modern, where we first came from, the things that actually were difficult over many years, and then what we've come to be as we face a modern world, and how we do that uniquely in our own ways. And so I'd say come and travel. My trip here 20 years ago was profound. It was a year after the tsunami. the physical environment had been decimated.
Yeah.
There was a desperate need for infrastructure and for people to come, and we answered that call to come and spend money, spend time and listen and get to know people here. And I'll never forget that. And when you ask me how I feel coming back, what is not different at all is the absolute sense of welcome and warmth and the wanting of sharing of Sri Lankan culture with those that come. And so I think so our tourism trade should grow, I hope. I think I'd encourage business people to think about what does foreign direct investment look like once you've established that you can deliver an economy that is corruption-free.
Yeah.
That has been a promise made by your leadership. That's very important to Australians and Australian businesses and those that want to invest. We have a lot of capital to invest in many different ways, and FDI is something that we do around the world, where we see places that take seriously the rules-based system, do not have corruption, and where money can be invested for the long term, where we prosper together. And so I'd be saying to Australians, think about the journey that Sri Lanka's been on, just as we have been on, but think about the fact that you have been trying to deal with that through your civil war, then you had an economic collapse, and you have decided as a nation to choose leaders who say there is a path, not just out, but a recovery path that has such optimism and potential at its core that we should partner with you. And I think what I see in Sri Lanka with the steps of removal of corruption, the arrival of people who don't have a dynastic right to your political leadership, who represent the people, who speak about the people. I keep seeing that. I met the Mayor of Colombo this week, and her enthusiasm and her desire to engage with the people of local government in Australia to see how to work together. These are all moments to celebrate and to say, despite that storied past, there's something courageous and brilliant right now, and it does feel like a takeoff point. And I'd like to think that Australia and Australians are going to be working right beside Sri Lanka and Sri Lankans to achieve that, because I think we have very similar stories to share and to support one another.
The interview will be broadcast on Wednesday, the 13th of August at 8 p.m. on TV1. During her visit to Sri Lanka, the Governor-General met with President Anurukumara Dissanayake, Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya and members of the Cabinet. She will remain in the country until the 10th of August and is scheduled to visit several areas of the island during her stay.
The United States and India are embroiled in a heated situation after the US imposed an additional 25% tariff on Indian goods 2 days ago.
US President Donald Trump this week announced tariffs totaling a punitive 50% on Indian imports, of its trade with Russia, bringing a jarring stop to a period of broadly warming relations between New Delhi and Washington. The US leader has also ruled out any further trade negotiations with India until the current tensions are resolved. Trump's punitive tariff on India appeared to aim at bringing economic pressure on Moscow to agree to a ceasefire, as India is the second biggest customer of its oil. The US leader's remarks follow his earlier warning of new secondary sanctions on countries trading with Moscow.
What is India's response?
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said he will not compromise the interests of the country's farmers, even if he has to pay a heavy price, in his first comments after US President Donald Trump's salvo of a 50% tariff on Indian goods. While Modi did not explicitly mention the US or the collapsed trade talks, his comments marked a clear defense of India's position.
What impact does it make on US-India relations?
The Defence Ministry has denied a news report claiming that India plans to pause its arms purchases from the United States after US President Donald Trump announced an additional 25% tariff on Indian goods. A Reuters news report claimed that India has put on hold its plans to procure new US weapons and aircraft, according to 3 Indian officials familiar with the matter, in India's first concrete sign of discontent after tariffs imposed on its exports by President Donald Trump dragged ties to their lowest level in decades.
Centre for Poverty Analysis, an independent Sri Lankan think tank aimed at promoting better understanding of poverty-related development issues, hosted a panel discussion titled Vulnerable Export Market: To What Extent Tariff Makes a Difference.
A panel discussion organized by the Centre for Poverty Analysis aimed at discussing the impact of recently imposed US tariffs on the vulnerable export markets and private sector engaged in product exports took place yesterday.
If you take the last year figures, the tea brought about 1.4 billion USD, whilst rubber, it was around 1.1 billion. The emerging crop for foreign exchange, coconut, brought about 825 million for last year. So balance, when I say the 5 billion, the rest is coming from cinnamon and other export agricultural crops. So you may have seen from the figures or from the statistics, we employ over the entire plantation sector per se. The importance of USA is because we export more than 330 million USD to USA, and out of that we are the world leader for industrial tires, which is also called the solid tires, and all the big players like Yokohama, Michelin, GRI, so various world leading brands are here, and they have established their factories in this country. Of course, with the tariff, not only because of the tariff, even without this aggregated situation, we have this sector has lots of issues in running their businesses.
Many countries would like to give because we don't have that markup. But we expect that this fully, the additional tariff or duty will be passed to the consumer. So if this is passed to the consumer, what will happen? Consumer spending will be lesser because their purchasing power is not will go up by 20%. And I think the apparel and fashion and apparel market probably is only second to the pharmaceutical market. It's much higher than many other spendings. But yet, if you look at, if someone has to drop, I mean you have your purchasing power, for some reason you can't manage with that money, first item to drop is apparel. Not food, they can't do, not pharmaceutical things, you can't, accommodation, no, schooling, insurance, all these things, they can't. But reduce the money that they'll be spending for the fashion and apparel. So considering that, we have a worry that overall this will lead to a slump in the demand of apparels. And if that happens, what will happen to Sri Lanka? So we can expect an overall decline in demand. But, assuming that China, US will keep still that 55% tariff on China, 50% tariff on India, then I think the impact for Sri Lanka will be almost nothing, zero. Because they will move some orders from China or India where the tariff is much higher. And also Sri Lanka is not very small exporter compared to many of these exporters. Bangladesh exports about 8 times higher than Sri Lanka. I'm talking only of apparel.
I think the damage that we have done to our own export sector is much more than turbulent tariff problem. The US is trying to do to our export sector. I think the biggest damage has been done by ourselves. And that's exactly the reason for why we are in a crisis situation also. We borrowed heavily from external sources, and when we want to pay those external debt, we have to pay it in dollars. But how do we pay it when we are earning $13 billion?
The discussion covered tariff impacts on vulnerable export-dependent communities, social protections, and how the private sector can support them, especially in tea, rubber and coconut sectors.
Newsfirst with the people.
Representatives from the All Ceylon Shasana Rakshaka Balamandala met with Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya. Issues and challenges concerning the Dhamma school system were taken into discussion at this meeting.
The discussion was attended by the chairman of the All Ceylon Shasana Rakshaka Balamandala, Most Venerable Tumulle Sila Kandathera, along with other members of the Buddhist clergy. The meeting was held at Temple Trees. Several key issues were brought to the table, including halting support classes on Sundays and Poya days, avoiding school exams and sports competitions on days when Dhamma school exams and competitions are held, addressing the shortage of Dhamma school teachers, providing the necessary teaching aids and learning materials for Dhamma schools, awarding special consideration or bonus mark to students with Dharmacharya qualifications when applying for university, further strengthening and formalizing Dhamma school education to ensure its quality and value. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister also met with His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit and other senior Catholic clergy. The purpose of this meeting was to inform them about the proposed education reforms set to be implemented from 2026. The meeting took place at the Archbishop's official residence in Colombo and was also attended by Secretary to the Ministry of Education Lanka. Discussions focused on how the new education reforms aim to create pathways within schools themselves to produce skilled professionals in fields such as agriculture, fisheries, electrical engineering and automobile repair.
Businessman Dudley Sirasa says that the country's economic downfall began with a major bond scam that occurred in 2015.
Businessman Dudley Sirasa expressed his views during a recent business meeting held in Kurunagala.
In 2015, we saw the damage inflicted on the nation. That year, we fought to bring about positive change for the country, with initial results becoming visible within a month and a half. My brother took office as the new president on the 8th January. The massive bond scam involving the central bank took place on the 27th February. I say this openly in media anywhere needed. If anyone can, come and talk with me and help find a solution. The economic collapse we are facing today started with the situation the country was in on the 27th February 2015 with the crime committed in the bank bond issue. The first thing that destroyed the economic strength our businessmen had was that central bank transaction. As the leading businessman in this country, I especially make this statement today. Along with that economic decline, the Sinhala Muslim issues that took place in Digana in 2018 caused the country's tourism industry to start declining. With the terrorist attack in 2019, we became even more helpless. Then in 2020-21, the global COVID-19 pandemic further pushed us into a helpless state. Brothers, this economic challenge should not be considered as a problem or issue of the country's president or the current government. This economic challenge must be overcome by us, ourselves. To overcome this economic challenge, we must make a very great sacrifice. Sri Lanka should have that nature with great sacrifice for the whole of Sri Lanka.
මේ ආර්ථික අභියෝගය ජයගත යුත්තේ අපි විසින්මයි. මේ ආර්ථික අභියෝගය අපි විසින් ජය ගැනීමට නම් අපි අතිමහත් කැපකිරීමක් කළ යුතුමයි. වැඩ බිමක් විය යුතුයි මේ මුළු ලංකාවම.
Several significant religious events, including the first Dhamma Sangayana, which was held under the guidance of Mahakassapa Maharahat Thero, took place on a day like today, the Nikini Full Moon Poya Day. Today, devotees visited temples across the island, offering alms and observing spiritual practices, seeking the blessings of the Triple Gem.
The Sirasa Namami Poya Day broadcast commenced this morning from the historic Degaldoruwa Rajamahawihara in Kandy. The program began with the Sambuddha Puja held in the morning.
Adinnādāna vīramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi.
This was followed by the Vihara Asana program, during which the historical background of the Degaldoruwa Rajamahawihara was discussed.
ගල යටත් ගල පීටි ගලෙම තිබෙන නිසා දෙගල් දොරුව රජ මහා විහාරයේ බවට නම් පට බැඳෙනවා.
Next, the Sirasa Damsara program was presented.
නගා සාදුනාද පවත්වන්න.
Thereafter, the Sannasa Kathikava was conducted for the preservation and longevity of the Buddha Sasana.
රජුරුවන්ගේ බෑන සිරිවර්ධන කුමාරයා හදපු නගරේ සමය සිරිවර්ධනපුර කියලා කියන්නේ.
Meanwhile, the Pansil Maluwal and Turnu Siddhaham Kathikavat session designed for youth were also held today. The Satpiyama program was broadcast from the historic Degaldoruwa Rajamahawihara as well. This evening, the Ape Pansala and Podisadugen Nahanna programs were aired, while the Sirasa Namami Poya Day broadcast concluded with a Sambuddha Puja. The Gammaddu Damsavya Poya Day programs were held today, centering around the Theldeniya Bamarugala Rajamahawihara. This sacred site, regarded as a cave temple complex where great monks once resided, was restored as a temple during the reign of King Kirti Sri Rajasingha. The day's programs commenced this morning with devotees observing the Ashtanga Uposatha Sila, followed by a series of religious observances and Dhamma sermons held throughout the day. Meanwhile, the midday Sambuddha Puja Pinkamal was also held today at the Shakyamalaka premises in front of the Capital Maharaja Group head office. The offering was sponsored by A.F. Jones Company, a subsidiary of the Capital Maharaja Group.
The final Randoli Perahara of the Kandy Asala festival is currently parading the streets in Kandy. The procession commenced at the auspicious time of 6:51 this evening. The casket carrying the sacred relics are carried by lead tusker of the herd of tuskers at the temple of the sacred tooth, Vasana.
One person was killed and 4 others were injured in a shooting that took place last night in the Sirasa Uyana Sahaspura Borala. 3 of the injured are currently receiving treatment at the Colombo National Hospital.
A shooting incident occurred last night in the Sahaspura area of Borala, leaving 1 person dead and 4 others injured. The gunfire targeted a group gathered at the Sahaspura playground. According to police, 2 individuals on a motorcycle carried out the shooting and fled the scene afterward. The suspects used a T-56 assault rifle and fired over 20 rounds before escaping. The group that came under fire had reportedly been involved in organizing a cricket tournament scheduled for today.
ග්‍රවුන්ඩ් එකට සෙල්ලම් කරන්න ගියා සුද්ධ කරන්න කියලා ගිහලා තමයි ගියේ ඉතින් දුවගෙන එනවා කාට තිබ්බද දන්නේ මොනවද දන්නේ වෙඩි වැදිරෝ වෙදිරකුව එමෙ ගෙනවා ඉස්පිටාලෙට.
The victim was a 23-year-old resident of Kalaniya. The other injured individuals, who are aged 21, 22 and 23, are residents of the Boral area. According to Dr. Rukshan Bellana, Deputy Director of the Colombo National Hospital, 3 of the injured are in critical condition.
One of the injured was rushed into surgery but succumbed to severe injuries. Out of the 5 victims, 1 is deceased. 1 person has minor injuries, while the other 3 have sustained critical injuries and have undergone surgery. Further surgeries are likely, but it is too early to predict their recovery outcomes.
Police suspect that the shooting may be linked to an ongoing dispute between 2 drug traffickers based in Dubai. In response to the incident, the police, military and special task force launched a joint search operation in the Boral area early this morning. The police confirmed that investigations are ongoing and that the suspects have already been identified.
2 suspects were arrested today by the police special task force for possessing a total of 10 kilograms and 260 grams of kush narcotics. The arrests were made during special raids carried out in Gotatua, Manigabulla and at the Kaduala entrance to the Southern Expressway.
1 suspect was found in possession of 5 kilograms and 154 grams of kush narcotics by the special task force, along with 100,000 rupees suspected to have been earned through drug trafficking. According to the police special task force, another suspect was found with 5 kilograms and 106 grams of kush. In addition, 150,000 rupees believed to be illicit income from drug dealings was also recovered from him. The arrested suspects, aged 35 and 64, are residents of Gotatua and Colombo 14 respectively.
A building constructed in Ampara at the expense of hundreds of millions in public funds is reportedly lying unused and serving no benefit to the public. Residents are calling for immediate attention from the authorities to address this issue.
මේක හදලා නිම කරලා අවුරුදු 5ක් විතර වෙනවා. මේක ගොවිජන සේවා මධ්‍යස්ථානයේ හදන්න තමයි මේක සැලසුම තිබුණේ. හැබැයි මේක පහුගිය ආණ්ඩු කාලේ දේශපාලනඥයෝ මැදිහත් වෙලා ගොවි සංවිධානයකුත් අල්ලගෙන ලියුමක් දීලා ඉදිරිපත් කළා මේක මෙතන ගෙනලා අටෙව්වා. ඉතින් මේක මෙතන ගෙනලා අටවන්න හේතුව ඉතින් අපි දන්නේ.
This building is located in Galwangua, Namaloya, Ampara. According to villagers, it was constructed around 5 years ago with the intention of being used as a grain storage facility. However, locals now question the purpose of such a facility in an area where paddy is the only major crop and no other grains are cultivated at a scale that would require such large-scale storage.
අපිටත් මේ ගැන කැක්කුමක් තියෙනවා. ණය ගෙනල්ලා මේවා හදලා එවෙන් කොමිස් ගහලා දැන් මේවා දිනනවා. සියලුම ජනතාව මේ වෙනුවෙන් බදු මුදල් ගෙවනවා. දැන් අපි ණය ගෙවන්නේ ඇයි? මේ ලෝකෙට ණය වල හිඟා ගන්න ඇයි? මේ පැවිදි රජයන් කරපු ලෝක අපරාධ නිසා. අපි මේ රජයක් පත් කරලා දුන්නා මේ රට ගොඩනගා ගන්න. මේ වගේ අපරාධ හොයන්න. මේ රට හදන්න.
Residents also pointed out that although other grains are cultivated in the area, the harvest from those crops is nowhere near enough to justify such a huge storage facility.
ලෝක බැංකුව ආධාරයට මේ වගේ මුදල් නාස්ති කරලා මේ විදියට ප්‍රයෝජනයක් ගන්න නැති ගොඩනැගිලි මොනවටද බලදාරන්නේ මේක පාදේ සභාවකට හරි දීලා ඵල ඇති ආදායමක් ගන්න පුළුවන් විදියේ වැඩසටහනක් ස්වයං රැකියා ස්ථානයක් හරි එහෙම නැත්නම් මොකක් හරි දෙයකට මේ රජය සම්බන්ධ කරගෙන මේ වගේ අපරාධේ විනාශ වෙන්න දෙන්න එපා.
We need to find out who these people are, who is delaying childbearing. That's the millennials and Gen Z.
Every parent wants a better life for their offspring. So I want something, and the world is not getting cheaper. Sri Lanka is not getting cheaper. The cost of living from 2021 to now has more than doubled.
Prioritizing crucial conversations. This is Leaving No One Behind. This Sunday at 8 p.m. on TV1.
The Ratnapura District Disaster Management Centre reports that the fire that broke out today in the Ratanagola Reserve in Halpe has been brought under control. The fire, which started yesterday evening, had continued to spread until around noon today.
The fire in the Ratanagola Reserve in Balangoda had spread across approximately 60 acres. As the fire gradually intensified, efforts to extinguish it began this morning with the involvement of officers from the Kapugal Army Camp, Forest Department officials and officers from the Imbulpe Divisional Secretariat. However, by this afternoon, the fire had not yet been brought under control. As a result, steps were taken to request the assistance of the Sri Lanka Air Force. Accordingly, a Bell 412 helicopter belonging to the Sri Lanka Air Force was deployed for the firefighting effort. Later this evening, the District Disaster Management Unit announced that the fire in the Ratanagola Reserve in Imbulpe, Balangoda had been successfully contained.
The VMAX TV series was launched in Sri Lanka yesterday by Konka and its local distributor Future Life Consumer Products.
Future Life Consumer Products Private Limited, the official distributor for Konka in Sri Lanka, launched the new Konka VMAX TV series in the country yesterday. At the event, Sri Lankan cricket stars Mahish Thekshana and Chamariyatha Pattu were introduced as official brand ambassadors for Konka.
Vishaka Vidyalaya Choir won multiple awards at the A Voyage of Songs International Choral Festival, a prestigious global event for choir groups held recently in Thailand.
A Voyage of Songs International Choral Festival featuring choir groups from various countries was held in Bangkok from the 2nd to the 4th August 2025. Representing Visakha Vidyalaya Colombo, a group of approximately 30 students took part in the competition. The Visakha Vidyalaya choir emerged victorious in 3 categories of the competition, showcasing exceptional talent and musical excellence. In recognition of outstanding musical direction, Rohan Dilanarol, who led the choir, was honoured with an award for Best Musical Direction during the event.
Israel's political security cabinet approved a plan early on Friday to take control of the Gaza city, a move expanding military operations despite intensifying criticism at home and abroad over the devastating almost 2-year-old war.
Far-right allies in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition have been pushing for a total takeover of Gaza as part of his vow to eradicate Hamas militants, though the military has warned this could jeopardize the lives of remaining hostages. The decision came after multiple failed attempts to mediate a ceasefire and amid a rising international outcry over images of starving Palestinian children underlining a deepening humanitarian disaster in the shattered enclave. In a statement referring to the Israeli Defense Forces, Netanyahu's office said the IDF will prepare to take control of Gaza City while providing humanitarian aid to the civilian population outside the combat zones. While Netanyahu said Israel intended to take military control of the entire Gaza Strip, the plan approved on Friday focused specifically on sprawling Gaza City, the territory's largest urban center located in its north.
After this interview, you will go immediately into a meeting with your security cabinet. Will Israel take control of all of Gaza?
We intend to, in order to assure our security, remove Hamas there, enable the population to be free of Gaza, and to pass it to civilian governance. That is not Hamas and not anyone advocating the destruction of Israel. That's what we want to do. We want to liberate ourselves and liberate the people of Gaza from the awful terror of Hamas.
Are you saying today that you will take control of the entire 26-mile Gaza Strip as it was 20 years ago to this month in 2005?
Well, we don't want to keep it. We want to have a security perimeter. We don't want to govern it. We don't want to be there as a governing body. We want to hand it over to Arab forces that will govern it properly without threatening us and giving Gazans a good life.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said Israel's decision to seize Gaza City was wrong and urged it to reconsider. Australia urged Israel not to go down this path. In a statement, United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk said the Israeli government's plan for a complete military takeover of the occupied Gaza Strip must be immediately halted. The Palestinian presidency condemned Netanyahu's announcement that Israel intends to seize full control of the Gaza Strip. Turkey has said the decision to take control of Gaza City aims to force out Palestinians, as it called for international leaders to prevent the plan from being carried out. China expressed serious concerns over Israel's plan to take control of Gaza City and urged it to immediately cease its dangerous actions. Germany says it's suspending military exports to Israel in response to Benjamin Netanyahu's plan to take over Gaza City.
In your sports news, the 2025 Blue and Gold Hockey Tournament organized by the Royal College Colombo Hockey Association commenced today at the Royal College grounds in Colombo.
The tournament, which is recognized as a premier inter-school hockey event, began with an opening ceremony held under the patronage of Atula Vijayawardena, Principal of Royal College Colombo. Now in its 20th edition, this year's tournament has attracted significant participation, with 40 boys' schools and 30 girls' schools competing. The event is conducted as a friendly yet competitive platform to promote the sport of hockey among school children across the island. The tournament is scheduled to conclude tomorrow.
From that, we bring to a close this edition of Primetime News on TV1.
Thank you for joining us. Good night.